Okay, I am doing a little review of Lesson 2, Powers and Roots. So when we're talking about powers and roots, we're talking about the little exponent that's on the top. So when you have a number like 2 to the 5th power, that means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. Now the test review said to focus on calculating squares, square roots, cubes, and cubed roots. Okay, so squared is like when you have 5 squared, and that's just 5 times 5. Now the opposite, everything has an opposite, right? So if you multiply something, you can divide. If you add, you subtract. So square has square root. It's a radical, but I think of it as like a house. So inside the square root, that means what two numbers multiply together to give me 25, and it's 5. So let's talk about cubing. So if you take something and you cube it, I should use a different number, different than 3. 4 to the 3rd, that means 4 times 4 times 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So the reverse of cubing is cubed root. And that's what number multiplied by itself 3 times would give me 64. And we just did the problem. It's 4. So let's look at some of the practice problems and see what we have. All right, number 1 here, we have 3 squared. So that means 3 times 3, 9. Here we have 4 to the 1st power. Anything to the 1st power is just itself 4. Here we have the square root of 9. So what number multiplied by itself would give me 9? 3. Now, it has this as 25 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Now, I can show you an example of how that works, but that's not what it said to focus on the study guide. So this one is -3. Notice how it's in parentheses, it's hugged up. So that means -3 times -3, which is positive 9. The square root of 49, what two numbers multiplied together would give you 49? 7. 7 times 7 is 49. Now we've got a cube. 5 times 5 times 5. This one is 125. I don't think there's going to be anything like this because it has a negative exponent. It said squares, square roots, cubed, cubed roots. 2 to the 4th means 2, 4 times. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. This one asks you the square root of 64. What number multiplied by itself is going to give you 64? That's 8. This one is the square root of 121, which happens to be 11. Okay, now let's talk about this positive and negative exponent just in case it comes up. So I'm going to use 2 as my example. So when I have 2 raised to the first power, that means just 2. So if I go up, if I say 2 squared, that's 4. 2 to the third power, that's 8. 2 to the fourth power, that's 16. Why? Because I'm just multiplying by another 2 on the way up. So it makes sense that if I want to go down 16, 8, 4, 2, I'm dividing by 2. So therefore, 2 raised to 0, or anything raised to 0 power, is 1. So now, using this idea, 2 to the negative 1 power is 1/2. Why? Because it is 2 ways to think of it. You take dividing by 2. If you take 1 divided by 2, you get 1/2. Here's another way to think of it. 2 to the negative 2. That would just be dividing this by 1/2 again, 1/4. What I think about, I like this. This was really great when I saw this the first time. But another way to think about it is if you have a negative exponent, do it as a regular exponent, so 2, and then flip it. 2 squared is 4, but it's negative, so flip it. The negative means you flip. I actually don't think those are going to be on the test because your study guide specifically says squares, square roots, cubes, and cube roots of numbers. Looking down here, these are all, you're allowed to use your calculator for any of these. So I think you should practice with your calculator, that downloaded TI-30 that we talked about. Look at 25. A cube below measures 6 on each side. Find the volume, which is the length times the width times the height. So that's the length times the width times the height. 6 times 6 times 6, which is 6 to the third. Which of these has the smallest value? 3 to the third is 1/27. 2 to the fourth is 16. So I knew it wasn't this because this is 1. This is 4. These are both fractions. I can use my calculator to check these. If I put them in my calculator, I'll get decimal approximations, which will make it easier. But 1/27 is smaller than 1/16, so A is the least. All right, I hope this helped.